Greetings, Congress. Oh, come on, man, I know you. Oh, there you go. MI5, right on cue. Nobody panic.
flashing for end the tape here or something. You're flashing for end the tape or something.
That's just saying it's because the tape's gone out. It doesn't need a tape.
Alright.
Okay. Yes, well, welcome to this Congress. Come on, man, give me some love out there, baby. All right. Yeah, especially since I'm in my hometown of Manchester. Yes, sir. Well, first of all, I'd like to extend my gratitude to the people who organize the conference. And let's say that, that you'll see people like me up here speaking, but as per usual, it's black women who've done the work. And it's black women who pulled together this conference. So, no. You didn't hear me. Because if you did, you would be clapping louder. I said it's black women who've done the work to put this conference on. I'd also like to, they're not here, but I'd like to acknowledge the Nubian Times. Nubian Times is a local newspaper. Let me say that you know that these conferences always face difficulties. I shan't bore you with the details, but you know that when we want to do something like this, there are all people saying they're willing to help and they will do X, Y, and Z. And when the day comes, you get up and the only person left is you and the mirror staring back at you. And when that day came and Colette Williams was the woman who happened to stand up, Colette, because you need some recognition, my dear. When that day came, and we were looking in that mirror, and Colette was the only one there, the Nubian Times, which is 3 black women who are running the biggest black newspaper in the Northwest, soon to be the biggest black newspaper in the United Kingdom, stepped in and filled the breach. Nubian Times, give it up for the Nubian Times. And first, lastly, I want you to give yourselves a warm round of applause. And let me tell you why, baby. Because in the times that we are living in, African conscious people are a rare breed, and from whatever perspective you come from, and we all come from different perspectives. One of the things we heard this morning about the 1945 conference is that not everybody agreed on their ideology, but they all came together on strategy. And today we're all coming together on strategy, right? Yes, so give yourself a round of applause for getting here. You know that I grew up in Manchester. My grandfather emigrated here from the west coast of Africa in the early 1900s. He was crew. 1, 2. You notice the sirens again. You know that MI5 is on the case, right? In 1945, in the early 1900s, my grandfather came here. He stowed away on a boat. A British merchant ship that was leaving Sierra Leone, Freetown, stowed away on the bottom. When he came here, they caught him and they deported him back to Sierra Leone. He was only 14. I think he was the first actual deportee here in the United Kingdom. But he got back on the next boat and came all the way back to the United Kingdom. He opened, my grandfather was the chairman of the Crew Club. Who's heard of the Crew people? You know your African history? Let me just tell you the Crew people were. Before Britain and America invaded West Africa to create Liberia and Sierra Leone, who do you think that land was before it was named Sierra Leone and Liberia? It was the Crew Nation. And the Crew Nation fought against the British Army and the US Army to retain their land when it was invaded, when they wanted to create this return homey settlement for returning free Africans in America and the United Kingdom and the Caribbean. My grandfather came here. He was the chairman of the Crew Club. The Crew Club on Great Western Street, which is down in Moss Side, was a seaman's club. You paid your dues every week, a bit like partner, and then when you needed help in hard times, you could go to the Crew Club and they would help you with your burial, help you with your wedding, help your child to go to university, help you when you were sick, help you when you were celebrating. That's the kind of African love that I grew up with and that I knew growing up in Manchester. My grandmother was born here. She was born in the workhouse There can be no more ignoble start for an English woman's life than being born in a workhouse. It means basically you've been abandoned by your family, rejected. And the workhouses in Victorian Manchester in the 1900s were akin to nothing you've ever seen before. And so you have my African grandfather and this English woman who's born in a workhouse getting married in 1920s here in Manchester. I can only imagine what reception that they would have made when they made their appearance. My mother, born here of course, met my father who's from Jamaica. Anybody from Jamaica in the house? Don't be shy now, don't be shy. You know we run things in the Caribbean season. Don't be shy. It's not in your nature, Jamaicans, to be shy. My father's from Jamaica, St. Catherine. You know St. Catherine? Yeah. Anybody know Boys Content in Catherine? I don't know, it's on the top of a hills right up by a Spanish town. There are several undulating mountain ranges, and right at the top, you can't even get there when it's raining, such is the state of the roads. When I first went to visit there, it was strange, because everybody had the same surname. For reasons too boring to tell you, my name is Jasper, after my grandfather, who was given that name by the merchant seamen on the ship. So I've got to change that to something more appropriate for a Crew Nation man. But my father, who was from St. Catherine Boys Content, when I went to visit there, everybody was named McCullough. The whole village. Doesn't matter whether you were mayor, doesn't matter whether you were the cook, the cleaner, everybody was named McCullough. So any McCulloughs in the house? Right. We know McCullough is a big name. You know, in Jamaica there are more Scottish and Irish names than English names. You know that, don't you? Because it was the Scottish and Irish who was said to be the overseers in those places. Now my father's mother was Cuban. And obviously my father's father was African and born in Jamaica. So in some senses, I'm a reflection of that colonial, imperial history that we're talking about with so much energy here today. And it's important to recognize that in terms of who we are as a people. So the other people I'd just like to name check, of course, who could stand here and not acknowledge our own royalty in the form of Miss Eloise Edwards, wife of Nana Bonsu. You know what? I'm going to ask you to do that again, but while you're standing on your feet, because she's an elder in our community. Give her that look. Oh, praise be. If you don't know who Nana Bonsu is, you're going to be in luck. Because there's a whole project on him online. You can just Google him and you can see the documentary of their wonderful life and commitment to Pan-Africanism over 60, 70 years. Also people to congratulate and just to name check Hartley Hanley. Anybody know Hartley Hanley? He's not here today. But I saw that boy take more beatings at the hands of the police than Mike Tyson's victims. And every time he would bounce back, sue the place. Before suing the place, the police became even known as something we could do. Hartley Hanley was suing the police on every occasion. So he's a leader for our community. And the others I'd like to mention are Phil Martin. You know Phil Martin, right? One of our great community leaders opened a boxing gym down there on the lane. And we give him praise and shout out as well. Now I want to talk about Pan-Africanism today, the 1945 conference, and can I just say how elevated I was for the discussion this morning between the two giant professors. I don't know about you, but I was just gobbling up every single piece of intellectual food I could gather from these two giants in their respective, Dr. Hakeem Addy and Dr. Professor Cecil Gutsmore. Give thanks. Give thanks to I don't come to this position neutral. So I'm not pretending to you that I'm anything other than a left-wing activist. So let me just put that to you straight. You know my history anyway. So there's no point me hiding up here pretending I'm walking some middle of the road. I ain't walking no middle of the road. My convictions are clear. My history is on the record. And I'm proud to stand by that history. But for the purposes of the Pan-African movement of the 21st century, it must be big tent politics in order to work. Are you with me on that point? Because at the end of the day, as you saw in 1995, not everybody agreed in the House, but they all agreed on strategy and action. And I'm interested in coordinated action with people who are interested in doing things, not talking about...
I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is Brother Viv Ahmun. And Viv has spent the last 30 years advising on and building businesses that make money whilst reinvesting in communities. He's a successful multi-million-pound generated business and an uncompromising community organiser and advocate of social action as a vehicle for black empowerment. He's passionate about his community, and I can vouch for that because I've been involved in many a campaign alongside Brother Viv, and he is passionate about black men, and he's passionate about humanity. Welcome.
I was going to go last, but then Lee G'd me up and I thought, I'm going to have to follow him.
You did great, brother. You did great.
Excuse me, what about a black woman?
Yes.
You're talking about a black man. So?
Sister, elder, I'm going to come to that. It's actually in my speech. Yeah, right. I'd like to ask you all to stand, please. Take a minute's silence for all the young men that have died this year. One died yesterday, stabbed to death in Brent. As I was on my way here, which is why I was late coming to the event. And all of those brothers who have lost their lives to the criminal justice system, to these other concentration camps that are called hospitals and all the rest of it. So for 1 minute silence, please. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Colette and the rest of her colleagues for making a supreme effort to organise this event. For me personally, it's an opportunity to cleanse, coming from the front line, from the battlefield, and reflect. Be amongst my brothers and sisters, speak openly and honestly, and also speak from a personal perspective. I'm hoping that I'll get recharged in order to return to the struggle. I want to formally commit to supporting Colette and the team in ensuring that next year's event is reflective of the ambitious vision they have set for its growth over the next 5 years. I think it's very important. I want to put it on record that my intention is to financially commit to the organisation, sponsor the event so that we have it every year. I got permission off my 15-year-old daughter on WhatsApp this morning to spend her money. It's so important that we have somewhere to gather periodically to recharge and refocus and draw strength, especially those of us who are operating way out in the front line, behind enemy lines in isolation. It's critically important that we have somewhere like this to come to, and that we know it's going to be there for us to come to it on a regular basis. So that's why, for me, it's critically important for me to put some money into making sure that's happening. And that's why it's important for all of you here to do the same. I don't know, Colette, I want to speak to Sister before I travel back, but if she hasn't already set up the resource to begin gathering up that money now, and to make sure that that's done and help her to draw them funds in. Because we're a rich community, we're not poor. Do you hear what I'm saying? We're a rich community, we're not poor. I want to thank God and the ancestors and all those who laid down their lives so that we can have our life today. I'm a Pan-Africanist, first and foremost. Don't be mistaken by the suit. They don't get more radical than me. Ask elders in the room, particularly the sister, for permission to speak honestly and openly with my family.
Say hi. That's you.
All right, so let me just tell you where I'm coming from personally. I thought I had an hour, I've only got 20 minutes, so I'm going to chop into this. I used to go to a black bookshop on West Green Road in Tottenham, Harringay, to get my food. So that's why I learned about Garveyism. I used to sit down and listen to them elders talk for hours, and they could chat. And they'd say, when they're done, maybe an hour or 2 hour chatting, they say, this book, go and read this book. Irritated Genie, go and read that. 2000 Seasons, go and read that. Chancellor Williams, go and read that. And I come back and I ask questions and I get my schooling. You hear where I'm coming from? My bookshop's not there anymore. So where did the youths get their schooling? Even if they can go and pick up the information on YouTube, where do they go to sit down with and reason? When they see these things and it makes them angry and raging, who do they go and sit down with to school them and enable them to channel that energy? When they go back into the school looking at the teacher thinking all kinds of things, and the teacher could see it in their face and tell them to come out of the class, come out of the school, who's there to reason with them? Teach them strategy and how to be more dynamic. Where are these? Where are these people? wasn't my parents that taught me about black consciousness. They were country Jamaicans. My mum was from Cuba. And for them, it was just really simply about work. You know, they came to the mother country to make a life for themselves here. And they very quickly realized the mother's country. It was another kind of hell. My dad worked at the Ford factory in Dagenham during the night. And at Fridays he went out fighting with the Teddy boys, drinking with his friends. They were simple people. I'll tell you about my dad though. He was a king in his home. We'd be making up all kinds of noise until he'd come in and then everybody was quiet. And once he'd park up on that city, everything had to settle down. And he was a giant amongst his friends. He was always a very sharp dresser. We used to get our suits tailor-made, trousers and everything from 11, 12. I used to go in the wardrobe and look at his suits and think about when I'll be old enough and big enough and broad enough to wear one of them two-tone suits. But I noticed when he was around the white man, he seemed somehow shorter. His confidence wasn't there. I didn't know it as a child at the time, but something weren't right. It didn't feel right. I didn't know at the time I was being schooled just by observing my dad's interaction with the white man, to be subservient to. Before I was even conscious of my own identity, just my very love for this man. I called him like the Black Captain Kirk, does into Star Trek. Nobody could trouble my dad. But whenever he's around these men, it's like his power was drained away. Now, who's to know that I wouldn't have just gone on, got a career, got a job, kept my head down? But that's not what God and the ancestors had for me. God works in very mysterious ways. At 3 years of age, my mum was taking me to the childminder, the white woman. They bring me to the door. Days like this, I remember, because the brain's funny. Trained psychotherapist, by the way. It picks specific things that it holds on to, and it becomes the symbol of that whole experience. You hear what I'm saying? And just like many of us who understand, where our African roots come from, it's not numerical time that we're running on, it's event-based time. And so I remember one particular incident. My mum's bringing me to the door, and I'm crying and I'm pulling away, and she needs to get to work. One of her 3 jobs. The woman comes to the door. Hello, Viv, you all right? Come in. I'm pulling away, and my mum's like, oh, she feels guilt, she's torn. And I'm saying, I don't know what's wrong with me, I'll be all right once you've gone. I come in, the door is shut. Shut up! You little nigger. I had one little plastic toy, and her son had an army of them. I loved that toy. It's the only one I had. It's the only one they could afford for me. And her son took it from me. I took it back. She came, she held me by my hand to let me hit me in my stomach. And then she made me eat his shit and her shit off the floor. And while I was eating the shit, she was saying, that's what you're worth, you little nigger. I'm not telling this story to make people angry or nothing. What I'm trying to explain here is we have to understand, we have to be able to embrace our own shame and our own pain if we're actually going to be able to do anything of substance for our young men and women who are in a similar pain, carrying similar shame. I don't know how long it went on for, because as I said, especially as a child, you don't check time like that. But you probably have checked, like, probably about a year. I went on to primary school, and the shame of it, because I've got my dad as my benchmark, was too great, so the brain buried it. It's like it never happened. I went about my activities. At 7 years of age, it came back as a memory. It could have been a trigger, could have been a smell, could have been a parquet floor, I don't know. It came back. And from that point onwards, I became violent. Very, very violent. But particularly towards individuals who were bullying others. Couldn't take it, couldn't stand it. Didn't understand, I just went through. Moving swiftly on. I stumbled onto psychotherapy and also my black self. It was a white lecturer that introduced me to black consciousness. On a pre-conscious level, always was aware of this Malcolm X, as they called him. People only ever said his name in hushed tones. It's like when we're in a restaurant somewhere and we're talking and people go, what are you speaking for? They say they call me, and I might not seem loud today, I'm in a very humble place, but I'm just as loud as that Mr. Jasper over there. And when I go in a place, we take it to a bar. I ain't begging nothing from nobody, I'm asking nothing. If I pay for my table, my chair, I do what I'm doing, and I'm not hushing my tones for nobody. You hear where I'm coming from? Yes. Psychotherapy, Gestalt specifically, black consciousness, and last but by no means least, spirituality. It was a heady mix. And I remember coming to Manchester, education of Black Child, Solomon Mint, Chancellor Williams, all the heavyweights, Ivan Van Sertima, they came before Columbus. And it grounded me. Set me on my path. It enabled me to take all of that rage and anger, not get rid of it. People talk to you about anger management. That's not what it's about. It's energy. It's how you channel it. I'm able to channel that energy. And the enemy can see in me. But more importantly, so can the young female and male warriors coming up. They can see that this elder is on fire. Just the way that they are. Lee hit a lot of statistics, so I'm not even going to go into that. Tremendous. The critical question is, right, we're fighting a war right now. It's an economic war. They can't move. I mean, I'm coming from London. Let's just put this straight. 80% of us is in London anyway. It won't be like that for much longer because they're ethnic cleansing everybody out. They can't put you nowhere. They put them black white wherever they go, they cause trouble. So you know what? Stick them in these super hubs. 3,000 individuals per hub. I make them work there. Done. Finish. In Haringey, when the fight back, as the youths then call it, occurred back in 2011, unemployment amongst the under 21-year-olds was near 70%. Which means to be in employment was abnormal. Was it abnormal? Not normal. 19 young black men killed in the last 12 months. Between 14 and 15, depending on whose statistics you look at, in the last year. That's one a month. One a month. But that's a symptom of a much more dysfunctional, bastardized dynamic, and it's our responsibility. When Shaquan in Lewisham was stabbed to death, he was wearing jeans and a jogging bottom. When the paramedics come, they couldn't cut the jeans off because it was saturated in his own blood. They couldn't cut off the jogging bottom, so he bled out right there on the spot. It was on the way to the youth club that they were about to close down. Sister Sharon Hunt, you in here? Stand up. Give her a round of applause. You see, these are the leaders of our community. These powerful sisters. You know how many men over the years have come to me after I've stepped off the podium and said to a whole white audience, you all racist. Oh, Viv, I wish I could say that, but it's the mortgage. Not the sisters, man. They will put in the work. Sharon called me up. It was a Wednesday, I was under pressure. I think I was with Lee and some other madness was going on. She said, Viv, can you come down to Lewisham? I said, look, sis, to be honest, I ain't really got the time. Oh, but there's been an incident, can you come on? I said, I don't really want to get on the ground in the villages because of the village politics. She said, Viv, we've got a 9-night, somebody needs to come and talk to the youths. I said, what about all the other brothers down there? Lewisham? You mean you want one brother to come and talk to these youths? Now, any one of us who understands how these processes work know that at a point when a young man loses someone who's close to him, he's open. He's able to receive you. No, Viv, I can't get anyone. I'll name some names, I won't say them here. You're right, because it's going on film. No, they're not available. So I came down, and I brought one of the youngers with me, Gwenton Slowly. Let me give him, I said I was going to call his name to put energy to it. What a tremendous 32-year-old young man that boy is. Amazing. He come down with me. We went into this community centre, the same one that Shaquan was heading to when he got killed. There were 350 young black men there, that's under 21, effectively in a state of grieving. But you know how they are, they're still on the phone, they're still laughing, but we know what's going on. I got up on the podium and I said, firstly, I want to say that you're not responsible for the violence that's playing out on the street. I take personal responsibility for it today. When I said that, they all come up from the phones and started filming. I said, me and other adults like me take responsibility for the fact that we have not kept you safe. And I give you my personal word. I leave here today, I won't rest until we've done something about it. Yeah, full attention. And then Gwenton got up and said what he had to say. Now I'll move on. But the critical point I'm trying to make is we can't have a situation where you've got that old. The actual individuals that they call elders, so 25 to 30, were outside of the community centre. They saw them come in, they saw them come out. They found the time to get there. They run the drugs in the area and so on and so forth. We talk to them, we know who they are. But these younger guys are looking to their so-called elders and saying, we're there to look after us, protect us and give us what we need. Where are these other elders? Lee described as dusty Negroes or individuals, many of whom who are getting paid by the state to work for these young men. Where were they? You're not there. The massive crisis in London, it feels like 2011. It feels the same energy, Lee? Yeah. The same energy that we felt immediately before the kickback. So we're and you can feel it in the adults as well. We called the community meeting, because 2 weeks later another young man died in pretty much the same spot. He was actually coming to Shaquan's mother's shop to give some money for the funeral because she can't afford to bury her son. And in the altercation that ensued outside, I'll get into the details, he ends up dead too. That's how twisted this thing is. So, spoke to Sharon, because Sharon's leading on the ground on an ongoing basis. I'm outside behind the scenes. Tell her to call a community meeting. 450 or so people turned up. 2 audiences. The audience from the estate, traumatized, angry, and then the audience from outside of the borough, and many professionals coming for solutions. It was a proper rabble night, would you agree, Lee? Lee dropped a tremendous speech, you must get it online, get that circulated around. And at the end, what we did was launched what the establishment called a social action response. It's a more Garveyite response, it's a do for self movement called Black Socks. Coined after a film clip that Gwenton put up online asking, demanding that black men pull out their socks and sort this situation out. We've launched it, we're moving it forwards. And the very simple intention is for us to not wait for the state, the local authorities, regional authorities, central government to do whatever needs to be done. We'll generate the money that we need to generate for ourselves, and we'll begin to put adults back on the street in key areas to provide the support that these young people require. It's critically for two reasons. It's not that there isn't money in the state, but when you take their money, then you have to do things the way that they want to do it, and they will never allow what you do to thrive, because that's not the purpose. And most of the money now that has anything to do with our young people has police connected to it. So they also want you to inform on them. No, just keep all Pan-Africanist about it. We must do for ourselves. And so what I said on that night, so I put my money down on the table. What's the rest of you going to do about it? You've had your old belly spilling. Where's the money there? And we raised a significant sum, a modest sum, and we're going to continue to move on to that. So please, join the group on Facebook. It's called Black Socks, BLAKSOX, and Twitter will come up as well. But that's not enough, that's just the beginning. It's already been said, I don't want to repeat it over and over again because I think we will understand it. It's the action that we need to see. I watched some of the events from yesterday and I saw one young guy stand up and say, look, you know, why can't you people get along? Critically, where's edification? Even if I don't agree with your politics, right, I can still praise you for your works. We need to praise each other, and I'm particularly the men, in public, hug each other in public, so that that's what the young people are seeing, bringing you back full circle to the beginning of my story. I was constantly watching what my dad was doing. When I saw him weakened in a certain environment, that weakened me, and that's programming me. So we need to talk less and do more. Not just out there raising money, mobilizing, speaking on the podium and so on and so forth, but also just showing affection man to man. Can you hear where I'm coming from? Yeah. I can't hear you though. You don't agree? Hug them, caress them, praise them more than you praise yourself, black man. Because that's what our young people need to see going on around them all the time to counter the toxicity that's been deliberately funneled into them on a day-to-day basis. We're running 2 capacity building training programs, which I'm financing along with the money I get from the community. On the 14th and the 21st of November, they'll be accredited. They are the best in the country because if government uses us, they must be, right? They're rushing to back it because they know we're going to run it anyway. But we don't want their money. Endorse it, but we will run it. The capacity building 2 days is designed to train up 100 individuals, 100 community leaders, the Sharons of this world, and many of you sisters and brothers in the audience, right? So that we can begin to establish a matrix of provision across London and then begin to build on that. So the training will run on an ongoing basis. People will, in exchange for the training, which is free, give of their time, put the money into our time back, so put their time, the resources into our time back so that we can sustain this thing. It will start with 2 things: youth provision on the ground, which ties into all the things that we were talking about, knowledge yourself and so on and so forth, economic enterprise, because I used to work for anybody else anyway. They're more intelligent and forward-thinking than us. And there's one other initiative that we want to establish called 9-9, which will primarily be there to support the parents, too often just the mothers, in those initial 9 days when they don't know what's going on, they don't have the resources, the local authorities are roughing them up, the police and so on and so forth. Make sure that they get the support immediately. They want to use victim support and all the other things, that's their business. But they would also have something that's orientated culturally and spiritually to their particular needs. I'm going to leave it on that point. I just wanted to give you a message, update you on what we're dealing with London specifically. I chose not to talk about Africa, lots going on. I know we're all orientated that way. Lots going on across the country. I actually advised government around a number of initiatives in the different cities, and I wouldn't get into all of that. I just want to say we must get on and do what needs to be done, and we must do that collectively. Heartened to hear Lee's feedback on what has gone on already today and the day before. We must continue in that vein. Can I get an amen? Amen. Can I get a yes, sir? Yes, sir. knife point rate has gone up by 48% last year. Domestic violence, and that's a young man against his mom, against other females in the house, has gone up dramatically as well. Now, that's a recorded figure. What they call as inappropriate sexual behaviour amongst young black pupils is rocking. We have to get to grips with that ourselves as a community. We need to begin to have that very difficult conversation in order to be able to address it going forwards. I want to leave that as a tone rather than expand on it, but it's definitely something that we will need to address, and hopefully it will take up a significant part of next year's conference, because if we're not unified in the whole, we can't be unified anywhere else. All right, thank you for your time.
Yeah. I get a treat this afternoon, boy. I get good food. Okay, we're gonna move straight on. Roger McKenzie, who is a guy who part of the trade union movement, who a lot of the trade unions we managed to get to give us money to make this thing happen. First, we asked our own community to fund it independently. And they came up short, and we said, well, should we do it anyway? So we said, you know what, we will do it. Next year, we want to fully fund this conference ourselves. Are you with me on the point? Yeah? And we need you to help us do that. And we're committed to doing that, because we need to now grow up and fund our own stuff. No grant aid from anybody is going to aid us to the revolution. Are you with me on that point? Yes, okay. All right. The energy good? Yeah, you feeling all right? Yeah, I'm loving it. I love it. Anytime black people get together is a good time for me. Now we're going to move on. I'm going to introduce Roger McKenzie. Should have been here. As I explained to you, he helped get us some cash to help. Unfortunately, we're very grateful. But his partner had a stroke. And let me talk about health, because health is very important. Your health is more important than your wealth, right? Yeah? So black people, you've got to take care of yourselves. And racism is stressful. Racism is stressful. So you know you've got to accommodate for that stress some way. But right now, standing in his place is Zita, my sister, who chaired the last session. Now, Zita and I go back at least from 2010, when we came together to form our organization. She's somebody that you should have seen her. We went to Cali the other day with a group of people from Barak, and we found African refugees over there. Every community is going over there to service their own community. So the Syrian from Europe is making sure the Syrians are okay. The Pakistani from Pakistani all over Europe are making sure the Pakistanis are okay. And they have little fire stoves, and they've got shops, and they've got medical things that their own communities brought them. Guess which community has virtually nothing? The African refugee community. And it is Barak and Zita who rose the alarm to that situation. And Donna, stand up, Donna, because I know you was there. I know you like to hide. This is the other sister. This is the other sister that made sure we took things to feed African refugees in Calais. And when is the next date? You're going to tell them, right? Yeah, give her a warm round of applause. Zita Holbourne.
Greetings again, sisters and brothers. Gosh, there was a tall person before me, it was Viv, wasn't it? I'm going to speak a bit about trade unions. I'm a proud trade unionist, as well as being a community activist and human rights campaigner. You know, my roots started in the trade union movement, and I am proud to be a trade union representative. I sit on the TUC Race Relations Committee and on the National Executive of my union, the PCS. I've been heavily involved over the last 20 years in founding black members' structures and fighting for race equality in the workplace and in the trade union movement. And I'm proud actually that there are 3 unions that have sponsored this event today. My own union, PCS, and Unison have stalls at the back there, and also Unite, the union, which is the largest trade union in the UK. And I want to talk about, you know, what we had to go through, start by talking about what we had to go through as black people in the trade union movement. Because the trade union movement, you know, has not always been welcoming of black people in the movement, has not always stood up for race equality. It's actually us as African people, as black people, that have put the race equality into the trade union movement. It wasn't white activists that put the race equality in the trade union movement, and we had to fight the racism within the movement to get the race equality in the movement. And we're not there yet. It's not perfect by any means. And black people had to fight, not just to have a voice in the trade union movement, but we actually had to fight to form black self-organised structures in our own movement. And the first and only black trade union that has ever existed in the UK was formed in the 1920s for workers that were working in the film industry. So they were the workers doing the cleaning and the porters and the administrative roles. And when they went to the TUC, because most unions are affiliated to the Trade Union Congress, when they went to the TUC requesting affiliation so that it would be a recognised trade union, that white movement, as it was then, the TUC turned them down and said, no, we're not going to, because there's already a union for the film industry, so you don't need to exist. Completely rejected and ignored the fact that actually they really did need to exist, because that general trade union in the industry was not representing or inclusive of black people working in it. And initially, we had to fight by standing outside doors and demonstrating. I myself, in a predecessor union, had to issue an open letter to delegates to the main conference, and then they set up advisory committees, and that's after we demonstrated, protest, stood outside the doors of their committees and said, no, we're not going to stand for this. And this is not, when we're talking about history, I'm talking about my lifetime as an adult. I'm not talking about going back before I was born. This is recent history. This is the 1990s we were having this fight, not that long ago at all. And I'm proud to have founded several self-organised structures within the trade union movement, within and without. But in the 1990s, when I went to a former trade union who actually had formed a policy due to a merger with another union that meant they had to set up race equality structures, they told me, no, we can't do that because we're too busy. And it was a white man that was put in charge of setting up the black structure. And then they were forced to invite me to meetings. I was supposed to be co-opted onto a decision-making body, which they wouldn't let me go to. And they said things like, well, you can't come to the meeting because we've only got a small meeting room and we don't think we can put another chair in that room. So, you know, it was like block, block, block all the way that we had to go through. So as a result of that, I set up my own organisation. And really, it was only ever supposed to be for my sector, and I called it ethnic majority, because we are not a minority. And yesterday, one of the speakers talked about, I am not BAME, I'm not BME, and I reject that term, and I'm glad that our black members in PCS have insisted that we're called black members. We're not be anything else, we're black. It's a unifying term that brings us all together. So I set up the organisation and we named it. And initially, this was me, fighting for this structure. So I had to fight to get other black people to fight with me. So it was a big struggle, because I didn't necessarily see it as significant or important. But then what happened is when we formed ethnic majority, everybody from across my union wanted to join up to this organisation, and it forced the hands of the people in the leadership, which was a right-wing leadership of the union at the time, to set up the black structures. But even when they did, they imposed a white chair. So essentially they're saying that we as black people are not capable of chairing our own committee. But really it's because they wanted to be there and have a presence and watch what we were doing, monitoring what we were doing. So what we bring as black activists, when we fight for race equality, actually that improves the situation and equality for everybody across the board, including white people. So actually, we must remember that when we set up black equality structures in trade unions or wherever we set them up, we benefit everybody. Everybody benefits when there's equality, not just the people that are receiving the most discrimination. In fact, when the Race Relation Amendment Act came about, the first people to bring cases to the courts were white Scottish people, not black people, and successfully bring their claims. So we should remember that. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Race Relations Act. And 50 years later, it seems to me, many days of my life, that we're going backwards. We're not going forwards. And we mustn't forget that the Race Relations Act came about because black community activists and ordinary black people came together to fight a campaign against the Bristol boycott. This room, you see, and that's what makes me sad, because our history is not being taught in this country. It's not being taught in our schools. It's not in the history books. We shouldn't have to fight for our people here, our sisters and brothers, to know that story. So I'd say to you, go and Google it and look it up. How many of you knew about the Montgomery bus boycott? So far more people knew about what happened in the USA when at the same time this was happening in the UK and people don't know about it. And that's another fight, which is not for my discussion today in terms of how our history is taught and documented and shared. And it took until the 50th anniversary, a couple of years ago, for the union that was involved at the time, who supported the bosses on the basis that they said, oh, if we let black people come and work on the buses, then it's going to reduce hours and reduce work for white workers, so we'll back up the bosses. And it took them until 50 years later, when there was some publicity around the 50th anniversary, for them to actually apologise for what they did. 50 years later, and that was really generated not by them, of their own accord, because of the media coverage of the 50th anniversary. And our history is being hidden from us, but we need to document our history. We need to share our history. We have a proud, roots of being griots, and we need to reignite that and pass that down the line. So if you look at all the things that we've had to fight for, even that wasn't a trade union. They were out with the trade union movement, but they were fighting for workers' rights in the workplace. I think it's really atrocious that I see every day white activists in the trade union movement and more broadly on the left who are passionate about fighting fascists. Yeah, so they'll say they're anti-fascist, they campaign against fascism, they'll go out to demonstrations on the street. But not all of those same people that will go and fight fascism will challenge the racism they see in their workplace. Not all of them will challenge the racist joke that's told in their local pub that they go to. Or when they see their neighbour or people in their communities being abused or spat at or on the street, they turn and look the other way. So when they say they're proud anti-racists, they're not proud anti-racists, because if they really understood about racism, they would be challenging the everyday racism that we face. And that's what we're seeing happening at the moment, that those who hold racist views are being more empowered to express those racist views. And that's been led from the likes of UKIP, from a government that has a racist agenda, and we know that in times of austerity, racism increases, and that in turn empowers individuals so we think, so over the 50 years we've had all these policies and we've had all this legislation that protects us from racism. What it's done is suppress what people really feel in terms of them expressing it, because they don't feel empowered to express it. Now, because of the racist policies we're seeing driven through by this government, and it's not just this government, it's, you know, the mainstream parties have supported a lot of these policies. If you look at the Immigration Act, which is the most racist piece of legislation I've seen in my lifetime, which seeks to create an apartheid-like state in the UK and the return of the no blacks, no Irish, no dog signs, that was largely supported by all of the main political parties when it went through Parliament. And there's an even more racist Immigration Act bill that's coming through. So, as much as I've fought racism in the trade union movement, in the workplace, and I'm proud that my union is a progressive union and is a supportive union. In fact, the work that I do as a community activist in terms of justice campaigns, family justice campaigns, my union has supported and backed up those campaigns. I recognise that actually trying to just organise against racism in the workplace wasn't enough. We needed to go further than that. So in 2010, Lee and I founded Black Activists Rising Against Cuts, which was a national anti-austerity movement, because we knew that the cuts were going to have a disproportionate impact on black communities, workers and service users, and that they were going to amplify racism. And hand in hand with the disproportionate impact of austerity on black people, what we've seen is an increase of racism and an increase of injustice. So our remit as an organisation has widened, and Colette, who's jogging up those stairs and keeps disappearing out of our sight because she's busy running around doing everything, I'm very, very proud of her. With Maurice, she is the chair of Barrack Manchester, and she works tirelessly on our behalf in Manchester, and we're really, really fortunate that we have activists up and down the UK that are running Barrack and campaign vigorously to challenge racism and injustice and austerity and cuts. And if it wasn't for those activists, we wouldn't be able to exist. So I want to pay tribute to all of them while I'm up here. And Barrack brought together community activists and trade union activists in a way that we haven't seen done before. Because I felt, and Lee felt, it was important that what we're facing is cuts left, right and centre, racism left, right and centre. We can't fight that just being, working in silos in a community organisation, in a trade union. We need to bring everybody together. So that was the aim of it, that we bring everybody together, which is why here in Manchester, Colette comes from a community activist background, Maurice comes from a trade union background, from my union. And we fight together, but yes, we have to fight every day, and that makes me, really sad. Even in terms of the anti-austerity movement, they don't often think or always think about the race aspect of what we're facing. And if we weren't there, part of what we do is to try and have a voice and put that message out there, that we are here. This is impacting on us, and you need to include us in what you're doing, but sometimes we have to operate and act separately and organise our own things, because we can't depend on the broader movements to always be inclusive of us. Lee mentioned that the convoys to Calais that we have organised. We're part of an organisation called Convoys to Calais, but in September, and we're now sort of going every 2 or 3 weeks to Calais to bring aid, to bring solidarity. But in September, Barrack, together with the Nation of Islam, went on a fact-finding visit and a solidarity visit to Calais. And what we discovered is that the African communities that are stuck there in limbo as refugees in Calais make up the majority of what's called a camp, which is known as the jungle, which isn't a camp, it's a shanty town that has been built because the French authorities don't want to provide facilities. Am I running out of time? Okay. This is what happens when you stop chairing, you forget about the time. So I'm going to end and say, please support the work that we're doing with Convoys to Calais, because what we also discovered is all the things that Lee said, that they're not contributing and bringing things for the African communities. And 60% of the people there are from Sudan. There's also Ethiopians, Eritreans, and they were saying to us, we need cornmeal flour, we need dried fish, we need saltfish. The aid that's coming is, you know, some tin of tomatoes and some onions and a banana or whatever else is in there. This is not catering for our needs. We met a woman that said, since I've been here, my hair's fallen out. Can you bring me a wig? Can you bring me some African hair products? Can you bring us some coconut oil for our skin? Because nobody's considering what their needs are. So we've set up a fundraiser. What's it called? What are we on? GoFundMe. I set it up and I can't even remember what it is. It's on GoFundMe, but you can speak to me after. I can give you the details. Please, if you can donate any funds, on the 7th of November we will go again. And as much money as we've got in that GoFundMe account will go towards bringing the products that people need. We also found that African people are having to walk for 3 hours to go and pick up firewood to make a fire to cook food. With the weather, you know, that's not going to work. So one of the things we did when we went a couple of weeks ago is we took cooking stoves and colour gas. So that's one of the other things that we're trying to fundraise. I'm running out of time, I have run out of time, and I'm going to end there. But what I want to finish by saying is that we must, as much as I've talked about doom and gloom, I think we must celebrate the fact that it is African black people that put the race equality into the trade union movement, not the other way around. At the start is that I'm also an artist, a curator and a performance poet, and some of my art, I've put a pop-up art exhibition in that corner. Please do go and have a look at it before you leave. I want to call Colette up here. I want a nice picture of me and my sister, or 3 or 4 nice pictures of me and my sister. Thank you. Colette has worked tirelessly. She hasn't eaten, breathed, slept. She told me, what was it, yesterday or the day before? I haven't even got toilet roll in my house. I haven't eaten any food because I'm working, so, you know, I have to run around and do lots of things. She's met so many challenges to put on this conference. She's overcome those challenges. And I'm telling you now, yes, we had Stephen, we had David, we must pay tribute to them as well in terms of their role and a wider committee. But I'm telling you now that we would not be here, standing here, sitting here today in this event if it was not for this woman, my sister here
really apologise with the catering and the food. We're just running a little bit late for that. And like Zita said, you know, I haven't been on my own. About 3 years ago, myself and my colleague Deka and Zerabi, sorry, I've taken off my glasses, Deka and Zerabi, both of us are politically active in Manchester, and Deka runs for the Green Party, and I've stood as a candidate, for an independent candidate for local council 3 times now, because the political agitation here in Manchester has died. You know, when you think of 1945, 70 years ago, that 96 people came here to Manchester to put on a congress that changed the world forever. And now we're here in Manchester and the politics. We've got 96 councillors in the city council and not one of them is black. Our economics is dire, our culture is dire. You know, we had a campaign last year to bring the carnival back to Moss Side, and we, you know, we went out in the rain, and people signed petitions, we were on the radio and everything else and that. But I mean, that campaign for me was a great campaign because it showed that people power, you know, people standing together, wanting to do something for the community, to bring back the carnival, the culture, the economics, back into the community, that one. And this year, in 2015, the carnival, after 44 years of being in Moss Side and then taken out to Patfields Park, was brought back into our community. So 3 years ago, we set about on a campaign. We did, in 2013, we did a Say It Loud campaign, started in October, and did a 10-week art campaign, just trying to bring politics back into the community. That was successful. Last year, 2014, as you know, was the 100th anniversary of the First World War, and we wanted to talk about our story, how the First World War impacted on Africa, how many Africans died in that First World War, and what the effect of that was. And we put in a funding bid to the Heritage Lottery Fund, and though we wanted to do the campaign last year, about 6 weeks ago, we got news from the Heritage Lottery Fund that bid was successful, so we're going to be doing some work on Africa and Africans and about how they contributed, how we won the First World War. And then this year, obviously, we wanted to make sure that the 70th anniversary of the 1945 Congress didn't come and go without us celebrating. And what's happened in the past is that we've had celebrations before. We've had the 50th anniversary, we've had the 60th anniversary, and by the admission of Dr. Paula Koji, who was involved in both of those anniversaries, what happened there, that it was very top-heavy, it was very city council-led, it was very academic-led, so there's no legacy. And what we wanted to do this year was to make sure that it was community-led, and that we put on an event not just to commemorate that day, but to also to make sure that we take actions forward, that we strategize, that we look at our politics, that we look at our economics, that we look at our culture, that we look at the older generation within our communities, the younger generation, those that are people who have, you know, mental health issues and so forth. And because of the cuts since 2010, all these organisations, all the black organisations up and down the country have faced massive cuts. You know, organisations closed, and also they have to change their agenda. They can no longer call themselves African black organisations. They have to have BME, they have to serve other communities before they serve our communities. And the sad thing about those organisations is because they're so dependent on funding, because they're so dependent on the government, that they don't say anything, they won't say anything, they can't say anything, and they're so quiet. Yeah, but I say to them, look, either you stay quiet and you go by the wayside, or you come out strong and you fight for what we need in our community. And unfortunately, they stay quiet, so they're all just diminishing at the moment. But hopefully, the tide will change. But like I said, myself, Daniel Davidson, Kadija, Charles Critchlow, and a number of others started on this journey last year, and there's only myself and Dacre left in the organising committee. But thankfully, about 8 weeks ago, we met up again with a gentleman called Robert Kroll, who I met about 2 years ago. Yeah, Robert Kroll is over here. Yeah, Robert Kroll. Came on board, he came to a reparations meeting, and he came on board, and it's just been absolutely fantastic. He's been speaking to the young people, and one of the things that I say is, even before yesterday, when we had the event yesterday, that this whole thing was a success, because what Robert and we've managed to do is we've managed to engage with young people. We've got the young people here from Hideaway. They've been absolutely fantastic. Hideaway celebrated their 50th years this year. Shiloh to stand up, please. Yeah, when we went to Hideaway to tell them about what we were doing in the 1945 Congress, Shiloh was like, hold on, that happened in Manchester here, I live here, I've never even known about it. And so what Shiloh said was, you know what I want to do is I want to take that information, I want to put it in an educational resource, and I want to go back into my school and teach the other pupils about the 1945. So even before yesterday, this project, this commemoration was a success. But we just didn't want to commemorate it just to come here for 3 days and just to talk about what happened in 1945 and what's happened in the last 70 years. We want to re-engage, we want to inspire, we want to bring back that determination, that determination of knowing that we can change the world, exactly what they did 70 years ago. You know, if we think about the time that they lived in, you know, no internet and all those kind of things, the oppression, the subjugation, the racism, the discrimination was, you know, so much more in the face, but they managed to do such great things. And whilst I've been doing this as well, I've been reading on those people that were at the conference, and they're absolutely amazing. Ras McConnell was able to finance the conference. Amy Ashwood Garvey was just a remarkable woman. George Padmore, Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, and you know, these people were here 70 years ago, and they went back to their respective countries, Kenya and Ghana, and you know, I think it's very easy to say that once they left the conference, they went back to their respective countries and fought for independence. But just imagine what that was like, you know, fighting the British rule and you know, assassination attempts, building up political parties, fighting that all the time. The amount of sacrifice that they had to make, you know, from their families and everything else and that. And it's just absolutely amazing. So I think we've got a couple more books outside from that Professor Hakeem Addy has written about the 1945 Congress, and they're on sale, special offer, they're only a tenner. So I think we've got about 3 or 4, so you know, buy yourself a copy and read up about the 1945 Congress. But I want Dacre also to stand up, because Dacre has been absolutely fantastic. Dacre? Dacre? Because, yeah, it's very shy, Dacre. Okay, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people have mentioned my name today, but Dacre has been, you know, he's been here, and we've been at each other's side for the last 3 or 4 years, and he's one of the last people I speak to on the phone at night time. We're on the phone for about an hour chatting about all this stuff and everything else and that, and he's been absolutely fantastic. And I'd also as well like to take this time to thank Lee Jasper and Zita Holbourne, who've also been fantastic. When I've been on the phone crying, saying all these things, I could actually just stand here and tell you about the crap that we've been through, yeah, over the last 12 months. Our chair, Dr. Paula Koji, left us 5 weeks ago, taking with him 3 speakers, a venue, and over £1,000 in sponsorship money. And he's also wrecked relations with other organisations that, you know, that promised us stuff. But you know, we were determined, and I was saying, even if I have to hold this conference in my backyard, this conference is going to go on. My brother Marcel, stand up. Thank you very much for organising. And brother Marcel made sure that he kept us grounded. You know, he talked about the 1974 6th Pan-African Congress and how he was there, and he kept us grounded as well. And last but not least, I want to thank my family, yeah, because I spend so much time doing things like this, and my family have been absolutely superb, supporting me, guiding me, helping me. My daughter's over there, she's absolutely beautiful. My sister's not here. My sister donated this cake here for us. Sorry, I just wanted to tell you as well, yeah, because I'm a really extremely proud mother. Yeah, my daughter is a master of chemistry. My daughter's a scientist. And there are a couple of people as well. My friend Beverly, who's been in the kitchen all morning, and this is my mum here. Okay, and I also think that I also know that what we've been doing over the last 12 months is really important for the community, yeah? Because what we've managed to do for this conference is to bring the University of Manchester and Manchester Metropolitan University Black Students Union, yeah? The General Secretary of the University of Manchester is Na Akwa, yeah? She's the General Secretary, yeah? And also there's Jordan Stephen, who is the President of the Manchester Metropolitan University, and it's the first time that these two student universities, the Black Student Union, no, it's not even black, is it? It's the National Union of Students, have come together and worked in the community, and I'm sure that we'll be working in time to come as well in the future. And I'd just like to say thank you for everything. Like I said, the food should be here shortly. Yeah, and yes, okay. So just like to say thank you all for coming. First Cut Media as well, sorry. First Cut Media, we went to First Cut Media and we said we haven't got any money. And one of the things that we know is that we do great things in our community, but we don't document it yet. It's very important that we document things. And we said that we needed to make sure that the whole of this conference was documented. And First Cut Media put together a project to work with young people. And we'll be doing a project starting from yesterday. It started yesterday, working with young people, and I think it's in January we should have a documentary about this conference, so you'll be able to purchase a documentary, and our documentary for this conference, so make sure that you guys...
Ovation for an outstanding sister. Oh my days. Give that woman some love. I'm feeling blessed and highly favored today with the love that's in this room. I'll tell you something. So beautiful for a black man to be surrounded by so many positive black African focused sisters. Tell you, if you haven't got any around, you're missing out in your life. You need to find yourself some positive black women. I've got a surplus right here. I'm comradely way. I have to say, we're comradely way. I'm talking about comradely way. I'm going to do something that is unusual, right? But in the spirit that we're big people, able to overcome our differences. I'd like to invite somebody to give a solidarity message who's frankly, him and I may not have seen, been on the same page in the past, but brotherly love extends to even the farthest quarter of the African community. So please, if you will, give it up for Brother Omwali, who's going to give us a 2-minute address from the Pan-African Community Forum. Louder than that, people, louder than that.
My name is Brother Omwali. I am the founder and currently the secretary of the Pan-African Society Community Forum. I'm just going to say a few short words. I mean, I wanted to add to the words around Colette. I mean, clearly, she's a fantastic organizer. And it's clear that things have crumbled around her. But she's a bit like, you know, the people that do juggling. You throw more balls at them and they keep juggling and they just get better and better the more the pressure. And she represents the kind of system that you find at the base of the successful organizations in our community. They're all around, you know, and usually they're too frightened to come in front of the microphone. Yeah? But they're all around, and they're the ones that actually keep our organizations afloat and operating properly. Let me just say this. A successful people, and I'm speaking particularly to our young people here, a successful people understand the relationship between the past, the present, and the future. And one of the traits of a successful people is that they go into the past and they draw from the past and they bring it into the present and act on it. They learn from the mistakes and successes of the past and they act upon it in the present. Another trait of successful people is that they go into the future and they draw the future into the present and they act on it. Drawing the future into the present is called planning. It's called having an objective, a clear objective which you're working towards. And as you draw it into the present, you're creating the plans that are going to get you to where you're going. Any successful organization must combine those two traits. Any successful people must combine those two traits. And with that as the backdrop, I'm just going to mention a couple of things in relation to the drawing from our history, which are more relevant to the first panel than the second today. And it's just to draw some of the lessons from the history of Pan-Africanism. And we've had quite a lot of lessons this morning. But one of the things Hakim Adi showed us today was that when you looked at the composition of the people at the 5th Pan-African Congress, it was not an African-only event. It was an event which was organized by Africans, but also built on alliances with non-Africans. When we look at Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, for all of the conventions that happened, we see the same trait. We see that it was organized by Africans, but other people were brought in, even onto the platform. There's a European woman, for instance, by the name of Rose Pastor Stokes, who spoke on the platform at the Great Convention back in 1920. And she was not alone, there were Arabs also that were drawn in. And at the end of these conferences, one of the things that was done, and this goes for the UNIA and for the 5th Pan-African Congress, solidarity messages were sent out around the world to people, not just our own people, but to people outside of the African nation, if I can put it that way. If we want to defeat the enemy, and the enemy is properly defined as imperialism, as Hakim Adi pointed out today, if we want to defeat the enemy, we must understand that they operate internationally. They operate across the whole people, of course, but we also have an eye and can offer assistance where necessary to other peoples who are fighting the same enemy. Just one other point of context. In 1944, from the 1st to the 22nd of June, there was a conference held at Bretton Woods in USA. This is a very important conference, and time, I presume, didn't allow the speakers to make mention of that this morning. But out of the Bretton Woods conference came a number of capitalist killer institutions. One of them was called the IMF. Anybody ever heard of the IMF? Yeah? the International Murdering Fund. They call it the Monetary Fund. It's the International Murdering Fund. It murders our people, but not just our people, it murders others around the world also. Out of that conference came the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. That's its technical name. We know it as the World Bank, yeah? Heaping havoc on our people around the world and other oppressed peoples too. Out of that conference came it was called GATT. What does GATT stand for? Somebody help me. General Treaty on Tariffs and Trade. Thank you. General Treaty on Tariffs and Trade. Yeah? In 1995, that was transformed, and it became known as the World Trade Organization. Again, reaping havoc on African people and other oppressed people around the world. Now, a little bit after that, something called the League of Nations was transformed into the United Nations. And I mention these institutions because these are the capitalist killer institutions, along with the transnationals, what some people call multinationals, which are creating absolute havoc for us in Africa and for other oppressed people around the world. Now, whilst all this was happening, our people were not standing idle. The George Padmores, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Amy Ashwood Garveys, the others that have been mentioned, I won't go over the names because many have been mentioned already, they were not standing idle. They were organizing to defend our people against the capitalist system which was organizing or reorganizing after the Second World War, after its destruction. It was reorganizing itself in order to heap more havoc on our people. So the Fifth Pan-African Congress has got to be seen within that context. It's got to be very clear that the Fifth Pan-African Congress was an instrument of African people to fight against capitalism, to fight against imperialism. That those were the negatives. And on the positive side, to build for the unification and liberation of African people in Africa and all around the world. So there's some very clear politics associated with the Fifth Pan-African Congress. And, I think I'm going to stop there. But just to say that we must be very clear about the political trajectory that we're following as we go through the process of drawing the future into the present. We must be clear what it is that we're actually going for and what it is that we're fighting against. I want to say thank you very much to the organisers. I want to say thank you very much to Lee Jasper. I've been very, very critical of my brother Lee Jasper. And he's been very big in the way that he's given an introduction to me. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone.
Somebody has picked up the 1945 Pan-African revisited books from the front desk. Whoever has them, please could you put them back for sale? They were not there to take. So if anyone's still here who's got them, no to unwell, can go out quietly and stick them back up there. And also, somebody's lost their pass. So if it's your pass, please come up and get it.
Okay, we're still waiting for this food to arrive. But where we are spiritually, we're all in the right place, right? Yeah. And we are in the right place. And, a lot has been said about the politics. But the first principle of politics is power. You'd agree with that, right? And if we're going to enter alliances with other people, first we have to be organized to do so. You agree with that? So I agree that we need to make those alliances. But you can't make those alliances unless you're organized. If you go into an unorganized alliance, then you're joining that organization. That is no alliance I want a part of. I want to be self-organized, self-resourced, have my own economy and power, and then I can be the equal of any alliance that I choose to go into. That's shit. You know that. So people think we're miles apart. I don't think we're miles apart. I think we're all on the same page. And we've got to stay there and keep our focus for this next generation. How are we doing with that food? Are we ready to break, collect? We're not ready to break. In that case, I'm going to ask Cecil Gutsmo to come back on the panel. Let's have an impromptu collect. Would you come back on the panel and take questions? Because I don't want it to be all male energy up here, because that would be out of balance. So I have 2 sisters and 2 brothers. I'll moderate from here for a few questions to them, and then we can, hopefully the food will arrive by that stage. Please bear with us about the food. There's nothing we can do. We relied on an external contractor who sadly has not lived up to his advertising billing. If I can see some indication of who would like to ask a question, and I'm going to make it questions, and I'd like to make it questions in relation to what we need to do for the future. Are you with me on that point? Because we can analyze and analyze. I want to use some time to think about how we're going to do what now needs to be done. So do I get your permission with that focus? That we are now looking forward. I need to hear you, I'm not going to move on that point. Are these questions around how we're looking forward? Yes. Right, okay. So indication. Brother Marcel, you've got a question for the panel. I haven't got any.
What is to say, in a way, is it possible to do anything through people sitting here this evening, right, getting behind a resolution? President Mugabe, speaking of the recent UN Assembly, said that there's still one colonial colony after South Sahara. The Pan-African Congress was committed to getting rid of all colonies across the continent. Yes. He said that there's one colony still existing, that is South Sahara colony. If that is true, right, put something out from here. Yeah, at least words don't nothing, but at least you can say that it shouldn't be here and something needs to be done with it.
Okay, we'll take them in groups of 3 if the panel is agreeable to that. Next question. Don't be shy, people. You're amongst family now, just relax. Yeah, where? Yes, you guess something. You want to ask a question? Project that voice, brother. Be very loud.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity. I was behind the camera yesterday. I wanted to.
And we give thanks for your work behind the camera, brother. We really do.
My question to the panel is this. We're talking about how to move forward, and I think that's what we should focus on action and less words. We're talking about building up alliance as well. And Lee, you pointed out some of the pitfalls to trying to do that when we're not organized, because you cannot bargain or debate from a weak point of view. You've got to have a kind of a strong point of view so that you can bargain with people, so it becomes an equal kind of partnership. So what I'm trying to say is this. Most of us in diaspora are quite very clued on what's happening on the international stage, the politics that is going on, and the weakening of black people that's going on, Africans. But we've got these massive rich countries like Nigeria and some other countries that already have these resources. How do we reach out to them to start using them to organize ourselves, to empower ourselves to be able to challenge some of these very established white supremacists and imperialistic organizations that are already destroying our people? Because while we are this, it's like there's a pit. We're climbing out the pit, those of us in diaspora. But our brothers in Africa are rushing head on into this pit, going into such alliance that is weakening and destroying those economies. So how do we kind of reach out as a movement, as organizations from diaspora, to them to start to build that very strong base to be able to compete and challenge the structures. Thank you.
Okay, good question. I'm taking, where's young people? Give me some young people in the house. Yes, young man, yes. You do nicely.
My name is Dr.
I'm loving that suit. Give that suit a round of applause.
So I was one of the media at the Minimum March, so I had a chance and privilege to be one of the media at Minimum March. So the event just happened last week. So I just got back to America yesterday. So Sister collectively supported this whole match. So thank you for your help.
There you go.
So I came from the land of Queen Zinga. Probably you guys heard about Queen Zinga here, right? So I came from the land of Queen Zinga. So Angola. So my question to you is the same question because after it came the follow up the next day we had a private meeting with Minister Farkan. And then the same question I asked him to put Africa agenda on all else. Because they say justice or else. To put the African agenda. Because as we speak, our African brothers and sisters are dying right now. So I'm one of the enemy number one of my government. Because they're ready to kill me because I talk the truth. So I just want everybody to understand here, we can talk about Pan-Africanism all day long. We can talk about culture all day long. But we got to understand that people are dying in Africa right now as we speak. So as we speak, because I'm launching a worldwide campaign, because 16 of our brothers and sisters in Angola, they're in prison right now just because they decided to challenge the white supremacy. They're in prison right now. So what they're doing now, they're taking over our land. They slaughter us big time. Big time. So I just want everybody to understand. So the reason I came to America is to unite with our brothers and sisters there. Because before I went to America, so my grandfather is 102 years old. So I was so broke. I wanted to go to Minimum March. I was so broke. And he came to me saying, I'll give you this money, but you got to go over there and connect with your brothers and sisters in America. Because a lot of us from Angola, we now most of our brothers and sisters, when they kidnap us, they send us to America. And then I remember days before, I got the map, the American map, and I asked my grandfather to point which land I'm going to. And he pointed right in DC. He pointed right in DC, said you gotta go over there and connect with your brothers and sisters there. Because a lot of us, because Angola, we got to understand Angola and Congo is one of the richest richest land on earth. And the white supremacy, they don't give us a break. So Angola is one of the few countries that we didn't embrace any religion. We only embrace our spirituality. Our African spirituality. I want everybody to understand. If we're not able to challenge the political system, if we're not able to challenge the economic system, if we're not able to challenge the media system and the spirituality, because the fight has to be done in two fronts. One here abroad and one in our land. Because our people are dying right now. Because right now, if I go to Angola, it's most likely I get killed or I get into prison or something. So that's why I told them I'm not scared. Because before I arrived in the UK, I had a meeting at the United Nations. I told them the same thing. They had a meeting with a couple of activists from Africa. And it's just me and my Zimbabwean friend. We managed to stand together and speak the truth, tell them the truth. So that's why I want everybody to understand. We can talk about Pan-Africanism all day long. But if we're not able to unite ourselves and fight the white supremacists back home, we're not going to do anything because Africa, we got to understand that the economy of America and England run through the African soil. Done for the white supremacy. That's what we're doing right now. Right now, I got a village, and they was almost ready to slaughter our village. But we managed to stay together over there. I went over there and fight in the full front with our government because they were using our government because the Chinese are going over there taking over everything. The English are going over there taking over everything. And then I want everybody to understand it ain't about jokes, few reasons, to get our brothers and sisters. It's about time for us to unite ourselves. That's why I went in America and tell our brothers. In Bronx, I went to Ireland, I was in DC to tell them, listen, it's about time. It's about time for us to unite ourselves and challenge the white supremacy. Because I covered the whole event, because Brother Uma and then Minister Farkan, They're going to inspire millions of people in Africa. Because what we do is, as a cultural activist and political activist, I film everything, and I'm going to send back to Africa and in different languages just so they can understand. Because one of our biggest problems is the language barrier. English people, our English don't hear, the only problem is to hear the English colony. But we got to understand the Portuguese, they were constantly in colonial rule. That's right. The Portuguese. So that's why they don't like me at all. They can do any time. But I told them, I'd rather die speaking the truth and understand the story. That's what I'm asking you. We got to help the Angolan people right now. And in Congo, because we understand that true land. The reason we use a cell phone right now is because of Congo. So it's a fire country because we as an African activists, we go in Africa and empower them from north to south, and there's a fire country. It's right on target. Libya, Nigeria, Angola, Congo, and South Africa. We're trapped over there. So we gotta understand the game. They've been playing a tough game. They're using our government to play a tough game. And then we gotta understand. If we're not able to die for our people, we can talk about Pan-Africanism all day long, but if you're not ready to die for our people, we're not doing anything. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry? Okay, our brother from the Glenroy, from the RLT, just behind.
I don't like that.
You know what? I saw people, and I'm taking them in the order I saw them. All right? I've already taken Brother Omawali, so let's be fair about this, right? All right then. So just relax. I think Brother Glenroy will tell you he had his hand up before I took the last speaker over there. So I'm taking him in the order that I see him. Don't get paranoid with it. Just stay with me. We'll get to you. All right, Brother Glenroy.
Elder being here, I'll be quick so there'll be no delay. Just to say that, commend the comrade for what he said, that when we talk about what we do as Africans, and I know many of us are not there, we need to recognize the connection, or how they will treat us because of their treatment of Africa. But my question is around the issue of trade union. I understand what you said, Zita, but I thought that you would have encouraged those of us who are lucky enough to have jobs to be creating the climate that you talk about within those workplaces and within those trade union movement. Because unless we are active within those trade union movement and making them do what they're supposed to do, and that is justice around workers, all workers, not just white workers within the trade union movement, then what's the point of being in those trade unions? And I am encourage everybody who has a job to be in it, but not to be some sort of passive participant in a trade union movement. So my question is, we must include that statement about activity within whatever organization we happen to be in. And that's the message I hope that will be added to one we send out here.
Thank you. I'm going to take Peter Brown now.
It's all right, we don't need microphone, man. Just chill.
That's just for the recording, it's not
Yeah, all right, well, come do your business. For the panel, in terms of resolutions, right? Our message we want to send out here. In order for African people, when the brother talk about spirituality there, Viv Ahmun and ourselves, we're the oldest black political Pan-African organization in this country. Right? There's nobody in this room can challenge me on that. I can tell you that now. We work with all the liberation movement, right to the Southern Sudan SPLM, and we meet lots of African presidents and raise the issue of the diaspora in Africa. There's a group in Congo and Angola where he talks about, called Viv Ahmun, and in Tanzania, Kresh. And this conference need to pass this, that we need to go back to our spirituality.
We cannot continue worshipping Christianity and Islam. There's other people in Israel. So we need to come this way today that our goal is to move to our African spiritual tradition. And that tradition is there. Next year, I'm off over to the Congo, to the biggest organizers of African spirituals. There's no white people in it, no Chinese, no Arab. The only people can be member of Viv Ahmun is us, African in the root. Let's get it clear. So if you come over there next week, we are meeting with all the priests then, all the women priests, the men priests. Their goal is to set up a council with Haiti, Brazil, US, and the Caribbean, so that we, and people in Britain here who practice our tradition. And this ain't to know, get it clear, voodoo just means God. So let's let it clear, it's no hocus pocus. It's a science and about our nature spirit. So we'd like the conference to adopt that we go for African spirituality for the next 10 years, next 50 years, we push that our people go back to us. And I've just to test the audience, how much of you here got a shrine in your house? Put your hand up.
Got the doggone.
No, who's got a shrine in their home?
We've got the shrine.
A shrine.
You know what a shrine is, right?
Well, you see, look in the room.
Not me.
1, 2, about 6 of us in the room, yeah? And it tells you that we're still in a old white boy and old Arab boy tradition. So, thank you.
Okay. Any sisters want to ask a question? It's been all male energy for now. Yes, sister.
My name's Erica Matt-Innes. I'm from Manchester. If I'm just looking at some of the ways in which freedoms for our people have come over the years, if you look at how slavery ended, it wasn't William Wilberforce, it was the slave rebellion that took place across the Caribbean and across America, which made slavery untenable financially, and then they gave us freedom. If we think of what happened in bringing to the end of segregation, it wasn't just the peaceful protests of Martin Luther King Jr., but it was the actual effective protests of people like Malcolm X in terms of disrupting the system, which meant that it was easy to give us freedom, even on financial terms. If you think about even in South Africa, what brought about the end of the apartheid, it was a lot of the uprisings that were taking place there, and the Soweto and the uprising and such, that made them actually give people the freedom. So I'm linking in with what somebody said earlier, in terms of if we are to change the system, there needs to be some sort of uprising that makes it untenable to say that they then actually do something that's more in our favour. And I'm wondering, one of the things we can think about is what sort of power we can create to make this current system untenable, to make them give us the freedom that we deserve.
I'm loving that energy. I'm loving that energy. Yes, young man. Yes.
Right. I'm from Cameroon.
From Cameroon. We welcome you, brother, from Cameroon.
I've heard about reparations. I want to talk about the reparations.
Reparation. Go ahead.
There's no way we can look up in to white man. Simple as that.
That's right.
The man said he would be a president in America to go back. That's an insult.
That's right.
I just want to put as a point the others out there.
Yeah.
We have to fight.
That's right.
We need to take what belongs to us. These people will never give us anything. And there's a lot of traitors now amongst us. That's the problem. If we continue to betray ourselves, forget it. End of story.
Man of few words. Brevity has its place. Yes, brother. Yes. At the back there. And then I'll come to you, sister, in front. Yeah. And then I'll come down. Yeah.
Can you come to me?
I shall indeed. I can't see you. You're blocked out. Yes, I shall come to you. Go ahead.
Great to everybody, and peace for all, I'm from East Africa, and I respect what you say about the refugees and Kadija. Thank you very much. On behalf of my people, Yeah, as a young man, I used to be in Eritrean army. But, you know, don't get me wrong, the Africans, we are fighting among one another. But we don't know who put the fire. And then I'm here to identify what's the problem. It took me a long time to be here. And then the problem is, yeah, the people there in Africa, they don't have no knowledge. The people in here, they seem to have the knowledge, but they've been driven by their emotion. Everybody in here is talking about emotion. We have to fight. What do you have to fight for? How are you going to fight? That's right. Have any one of you been in the battleground? I served my country in the battleground. I know how it feels to fight and die for your country. But you know what? First fix yourself. I say to myself, first of all, and I say, who am I? Right? What is it that makes me what I am? Or why I'm behaving like this? So I have to see myself come out of the box. I don't need no box. So you are trying to fight within the box where someone created the box for you.
That's right.
Someone created the financial system for you. Someone created the political system for you. Someone created the education system for you. Everything been created by those people that are suppressed. Right? You're trying to fight within, you will never win. You need to find your box. We need to find our own box. Create our own one. Our ancestors, they fight through the mental. We don't know the power of your mental. Your mind has power. Your spirit has power. You don't even realize the spirit that you have, how grateful or how great spirit that you have.
That's right.
You're not the body. Definitely you're not the body. Definitely you're not the mind. You are what? You are the intelligent that is within your body. So who is bigger than this, the physical or the spiritual body of you? We need to identify with ourselves, with our true self, not with our ego self. Ego is the one that driving us to be falling down every time. How many times we fail? How many times? If we keep coming like this, we're going to fail so many times. It's time to identify yourself with your true self. Be righteous. Live with the laws of nature. The laws of nature have, like, in Egypt, you have 42 laws of man. In West Africa, you have 172 laws. You don't do no laws. You want to win? Who is going to support you? You don't love no nature. You don't even identify yourself as one of nature. Have you ever said good morning to the tree, to the wind, to the water, to earth? Who are you to say, I want this, I want that, without respecting your mother earth first? Our ancestors live by the law of nature. We are 5 elements. We are air, we are fire, we are earth, we are water, we are spirit, right? So who is dying to die? Who is failing for death? Not the water. The water is going to go back to water. The air is going to go back to air. Fire is going to go back to fire. Earth is going to go back to earth. Who is failing of dying? Or who is claiming these things of death? Our ancestors, they never say the word death. The dead created by the Western, not by our ancestors. We don't have no word in our dictionary so-called death. We used to say going to west. He went west, he was resting. So which means when he rests, he come back from east. The sun goes to west, he come back from east. So if we know that we're never going to die, let's make the change today. Give him blessings.
Just one thing, brother. I didn't quite catch your name. Samuel. Okay, give him another round of applause. Yeah. Yes, sister. Your name is? Don't make it easier. Stick with your name.
What I wanted to say is, that, I'm going to speak for people that are my age and probably younger, or a little older.
truth will set you free. The truth will set you free. Give her a round of applause. Coming to you, sir.
Hello, everyone.
Greetings.
Okay, there was just two quick points. The first point was touching on what the brother said about what's happening on the continent. And I'm of Sudanese origin, and what I find frustrating is that people think unity with the global south and the continent means unity with those governments that oppress our people. And I just want to say that it hasn't happened so much here, but I've heard the Honourable Minister Lee Jasper support Omar Bashir and other speakers, and just be cautious. Be cautious when you're talking on things. Because America's attacking that country and attacking that government, it doesn't mean that they're all of a sudden the good guys, and America, who are the bad guys, and the fighting these guys are these guys. It doesn't work like that. My enemy's enemy isn't my best friend.
That's right. That's right.
So just when we call ourselves Pan-African, please support the people of the continent, not these governments. Yeah, one of the ladies showed me the GoFundMe page. Yeah. I had no idea. They said there was 60% of the people in Sudanese.
That's right.
Sudanese. There's a reason for that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
There's
right.
a reason for that. So just last point. Whenever you're talking about these things, just make sure that you're on point with the facts and you're not perpetuating the problem. Another quick point I want to make, touching on what Mawali said. It's I don't know if you've seen this viral video go around. She seems to be one of the making herself British black woman on the bus. And she's like, ISIS killer, ISIS killer. That's, to me, that's a symptom of a larger problem. Because there's other people from the South Asian community that say many worse things about us. Yeah? We need to find a way. I know we need alliances, but we need to find a way to unite with all people of colour within this country. Somehow, yeah? Whenever we're eating with our African friends and they're pissing out someone from Jamaica, we need to call them out. Yeah. And then making African joke, you need to call it out. When you're watching on TV shows and these American comedians making African jokes, you know you need to laugh and support it. Yeah? We perpetuate problems with division. We do it on a small scale, but then it manifests on a large scale. We're not united, and then that's how they come up. Yeah? So just unity, all people are coming to find a way to be united. That's it.
I'm going to take you, and I'm going to take my brother at the back, and then I'm going to ask the panel to respond. But in relation to that, can we just be clear about this conference? We are in no way endorsing Africa's neo-colonial puppet regimes masquerading under the flags of democracy. We reject that, and we want a revolution for our people. You, sir, at the back. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to ask what it is, because I'm new to Manchester, and I'm working schools. Okay, so I'm new to Manchester and I work in schools. And I'm seeing, just like in London and most likely around the UK as well as America, I'm seeing so many young black boys get excluded from school. Yeah. Now, what it is, because I do work with some of them, I find it very hard to find agencies, organizations in Manchester that cater for young blacks who are being excluded from school. With all due respect, it's nice when we say we have to build solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Africa and in the Caribbean. But when, like I've been to Africa many times, when you go to Africa, many of the young people you meet are more mature, they know themselves and have a more understanding of who they are, more than the black boys, young people that we see here in the UK. I wanted to ask, one of the reasons why I came here today is to know, are there any black organizations here in Manchester that cater for young black boys as well as young black girls who are being excluded from school?
Rise up Hideaway, rise up Hideaway. Where's Hideaway? Hideaway's over here, and there's more. Any other black organizations in Manchester? Okay, well, you two can have a discussion, right? And I think there are people here who knows where all these organizations are. We must have some. Well, Colette will know. Yeah? So I suggest you get a meeting with Colette, have coffee, work it out, find out. And if there isn't, then maybe you talk to Viv Ahmun about how we create one from the ground up. But I'm sure there are some here. Give him a round of applause, please. Yes, my brother.
Thank you, Lee. Just a quick show on how many people here know that African Union has made diasporan Africans the 6th region of Africa.
Did you hear that? How many people know that the African Union has got a diasporic college, and one of the seats in each of the regions is indeed for Europe? I think it's the only college seat that's empty, if I'm right.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But what does this mean? That's the problem here. What does making diaspora Africa the 6th region of Africa, what influence do we have? How do we communicate with them? I happen to be in the motherland, Ghana, over the past 9 months ago. I just came back last week. And I stumbled upon something when I got to Ghana, sometime around February or March. There was the 8th PAC conference. In 1945 one was the 5th one. There was the 6th one, 7th one, and there was the 8th PAC.
The 8th?
8th.
Okay.
In Ghana. And how did I stumble upon it? I saw an advert in the newspaper. It was taking place the next day. We have a PAC in here doing some very good work for the last 50 years. And there's no link at all with sex organizations. And this conference, which is very, very commendable, how do we link up with the motherland so that we can make effective contributions towards the motherland? So this is something that somehow, one way or the other, we need to try and establish some relationships. You are right, Lee, with this democracy in South Africa, which are not worth anything. But there again, they happen to be in power. We don't necessarily have to work with them, but we need to maybe work with grassroots organizations so that we can make some effective contributions towards the masses of Africa.
Give him a round of applause. Our elder. Have you noticed something that we've managed to achieve in Manchester? We've managed to achieve a diasporic conversation with people and Africans from around the world making their contribution. That's just a beautiful thing. I think we should just applaud that for its beauty alone. Okay, we're gonna come to the panel. Then we're going to dinner has arrived, or lunch, or it's nearly dinner, isn't it now? So yeah, lunch has arrived. Don't forget, we're going to break for lunch for a little while, and then Dr. Umar Johnson's in the house. Give him a round of applause. So, you guys, a response to those myriad of issues. I don't expect each of you to respond to all of them, but pick your spot and have a response. Who's going first? Yep.
I think I can respond to all of them.
Yes, but we don't want you to respond just now, because a hungry mob is an angry mob. You want to keep them here any longer?
With brevity. I think the first point for me, and it's the energy that I came with, it's the understanding that I came with, because I was very somber coming here, because I had so much expectations of what this gathering could deliver, because I'm so hungry. And I had to remind myself that, you know, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And to pick up on what's already been said, we have to be strategic about this. We have to be measured. So I think some of the points about resolutions need to be taken away and worked through and brought to the next event any year from now. I think, as has already been said when we're talking about the international element of it, we should be mindful of what's going on elsewhere, and we should make those connections. Now, there are only a few of us in this room. There are many, many other individuals and organisations doing great work, and we're connected to many of them. And we should all go back and tell them what an outstanding event this has been, what we've gathered up in terms of next steps, and connect that with what's going on elsewhere. Because too often there's replication. It's the replication that stops us moving forwards. I think it's critically important that we put our own house in order, as has already been said. Very, very important. And that's why I wanted to share with you today that we're actively putting our house in order in London. And we want to be actively connecting with our brothers and sisters elsewhere in the UK in order to put our house in order, whether it be in relation to education, whether it be in relation to generating the funds necessary to do what needs to be done, looking after our sisters, looking after our young people, providing them with the appropriate education. Black Socks has only got 3 roles. It's not seeking to replicate anything else that exists, and believe me, there's a lot of stuff going on in London. The first thing it seeks to do is provide the training, the information, make sure that the information is made available to key individuals, because that is empowerment within itself, as some have already said here today, and make sure that the training is quality, it's not misinformation, it's die-cut information. Also, for the other role is for it to be pumping out information on an ongoing basis. Another point that a brother made a minute ago, making sure that that information is widely available. We've got the power of the internet and so on and so forth to push that information out. We've seen perfect examples of how that can be done. Minister Farrakhan, who's been banned from mainstream radio, TV, and not allowed to play out in schools, has turned to the internet, turned to the hip-hop music and young people to get his message out there. In fact, you know, I get Farrakhan interviews from young people almost on a weekly basis telling me that that's what I need to watch. And I think that's an important point. The young people are telling us what they want. They're saying you must do for self. Why haven't you got shops? Why don't you own property? Why aren't you providing us with the education that we need? We need to put our own house in order, and we know what needs to be done. We just need to mobilise and act on it. The education point, I think, again, is another key one. We already know what to do. We just need to get on with doing it. We are running education provision in London. We're expanding on that education provision. We do it for ourselves. We're not begging anything from anyone. Again, I think it's important that we don't allow for people to stigmatise the educational provision that we provide. That is for young people that are problematic, young people that have been excluded, young people that aren't that bright, young people. No, these are our soldiers and our warriors. And I've always said to the young people, when I used to do the work on the ground with the young people that were excluded from school, I would say to them, I'm gathering you up because you're the warriors. That's why they don't want you in there. Because you're asking critical questions they don't want you to ask. Now you've come out to us, we can school you properly. All right. In terms of the seat that's vacant, I think, again, that's a critical point. We need to put our own house in order so that we can go and establish ourselves and provide the support that our brothers and sisters are looking for from us. We have a hell of a lot of resources here that we're not effectively utilising because it's so fragmented. So if I was to take away, and I am going to take this message away and debrief and do my little blogging and so on and so forth, I'm going to say it was an outstanding resuscitation of something that we allowed to lose its way. I will say that I was absolutely inspired by the fact that young people were so centrally involved, and I'm already planning and investing my own money in the next one that takes place next year, knowing that we will be significantly further down the road.
What do you mean the next one is taking place this year? Several times you've can you think that what is
Yeah, well, I believe that's one. Yeah. I believe that the event.
This event is the 70th anniversary of Pan-Africanism. It's a one-off thing that happens this weekend. So what are you saying?
I'm saying that there should be a gathering, Pan-Africanist gathering on an annual basis in order to move forward.
You're saying that they say that, but don't forget this is a one-off event.
Well, we're clear. Whenever it's called, we're going to gather again.
But it's an important point. I thank you for clarifying that. That's fine. And I apologise for not being clear. I thought I was when I was presenting, and I clearly wasn't. So let me say it again. I think it's important that we gather on a regular basis. We're not going to establish what we need to establish in 3 days. I've been starving for an environment like this, and now that it's here, I want it to continue.
panel. Zita, you don't have to go and turn, you just jump in because that's how we roll it. I don't mind, let's go.
First of all, I want to say that the contributions we've heard from the floor have been inspiring, and that in itself gives me hope. There's a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of passion, a wealth of desire to seek out knowledge, to seek out truth, to share knowledge and truth. So I think that's inspirational in itself in terms of the people who are here. And as Viv has mentioned about having an annual gathering, it will only grow if we have an annual gathering. We'll bring more people in. The more I think communication is key. And a route to healing is that we have to have dialogue, we have to have communication, but yes, we need to turn that into action. So I think it would be fantastic if going forward, we have some resolution-based events on an annual basis where we can actually form resolutions and take them forward in a structured way. I wanted the so-called refugee crisis, the situation in Calais was mentioned, and I wanted to bring people's attention to a fantastic filmmaker called Ray Riccardo, who came out with us to Calais and documented our day there, but also documented what was happening, because that will give you an overview of the situation there. And you can find the film on YouTube, you can find it on our Barrack website. You just Google Barrack, it will come up on our website. There's also a written report I produced. But what we have to remember in terms of why there's so many African refugees in Calais, why they're the majority, except but in contrast, the narrative is completely silent on their existence there and what's happening to them, is that it's Western countries that have caused the issues, that have created a situation where people are fleeing persecution, poverty, war. So we need to bring it back to who is causing it. And so when they're saying, oh, you can't come in, our country's full, they went into our countries and created this situation in the first place. So we need to throw that back at them. And actually today, there is a huge demonstration that's taking place in Dover, calling for our borders to be open, to let those people in. Because when we're going out to take aid, and our organisation, Convoys to Calais, we're not doing it just to take aid. We're doing it as a political campaign to make the point that actually the 5,000 people that are in that shanty town in Calais should be granted asylum in the UK. And there are people that are risking their lives who are going on top of trains and are trying to get into the ferries and walking along the track, and some people are dying every week doing that. And people have to recognise, the negative narrative or even silent narrative in the media about it is portraying them as benefit tourists and also as economic migrants. Well, actually, some of those African refugees there are escaping issues of climate change. And in human rights legislation and European legislation, those fleeing issues of climate change are not even recognised as refugees in law. And I think that's another thing that we have to challenge. The law needs to change that recognition. And there's a conference in Paris I'm speaking at in December, where we're going to talk about, I'm going to run a workshop on refugees, climate change, and trying to challenge that. That's put on by the international TUC, the ITUC. In terms of the point that was made by the brother there about what's happening to black children, black boys, in terms of exclusion, I mean, that's part of a system of institutional racism that we face. And we need to challenge institutional racism, and there are lots of ways we can do it. Glenroy talked about, the importance of us joining trade unions, and I agree with the point that Glenroy made. I'm a passionate trade unionist. We do need to join trade unions, but we also need to have a voice in those trade unions, and Glenroy is actually standing for the president of the RMT. So We should congratulate him on that.
I don't think they heard you.
I
I don't think they heard you. He's standing for
President
of
RMT.
Stand up, Glenroy. The president of the RMT.
There are not enough of us in leadership positions in Ukraine, but the only way we're going to change that is, one, if we stand, and two, we need to ensure that we back those candidates that stand, so we give them the support spiritually, physically, financially, if that means running a campaign. We need to get behind people. So whether it's standing in a trade union or whether it's standing for some other position where we don't have a voice, we're in the minority on these executive making bodies. One of the things I designed in my trade union and rolled out was empowering our members to get involved in decision-making bodies, to stand in elections, but giving them the tools and the information on how to do that, and not just physically how to do it, work in the system that they have to work in terms of, I've been cut off. Is that telling me I'm out of time? And I think in terms of a lot of the comments we made, one of the things that we need to seek and we need to achieve is economic empowerment. And when we're talking about reparations, part of reparations may be compensation, because yes, the white slave owners, the owners of people, African people enslaved, were given compensation when it was outlawed. And actually David Cameron, the likes of David Cameron, benefited directly from that because his family were compensated, and that allowed people who were not from wealthy backgrounds necessarily to then benefit whole generations going forward financially, and give them a better start than we've had. So the financial reparations is important, but it's also about healing, and it starts with self-healing. So there was a question about truth. I can tell you what my truth is, and I think we all have our own truth, and perhaps we need to recognize our own truth. We need to look inside ourselves as much as we need to look out, because if we don't heal ourselves inside, then we can't look outside and look about what we're going to do, what actions we're going to take, how we're going to interact with others. If we're in pain and we're angry, then it's difficult to be on, so we need to address that. And now the mic is really off because my time's up. I'm going to pass on. And this pass hasn't been claimed. I can tell you the last name, Kelly. The last name is Kelly in this pass. Everybody know somebody with the last name L. Kelly? They won't be able to get their bus home when they leave here otherwise.
Okay, so some people may not know who I am because I've just joined the platform. My name's Donna Guthrie. I'm the National Women's Officer for Barrack UK. I've been a tireless campaigner against racism and fascism. I used to be a national campaigner for 8 years with United Against Fascism and running around the country, stopping the BNP, literally everywhere, organising campaigns with local people. But I want to concentrate on talking about what Zita mentioned. So unfortunately I'm going to talk about the refugee crisis and how it's affecting African people that are being forced to run around, run from.
This is on the floor.
Yeah. Okay. I will do.
Hold on. I'm chairing the meeting.
Someone from the floor.
I'm chairing the meeting. Okay. Let's go.
Someone from the floor mentioned about the Sudanese community that are stuck in Calais. Yesterday, I was involved in direct action at King's Cross Station, stopping the Eurostar for 4 hours. No trains left King's Cross, basically, to France. We created a border. We said if they won't let our people in, then they're not going to be let out. And there were people, rich people, wanting to go to their meetings in Paris or their meetings wherever in Belgium that couldn't get nowhere yesterday. When we took over King's Cross Station and we said we're not going in a peaceful manner, we're sick and tired of this, and there was hundreds of us there. But actually, what the young lady said about how to inspire our people as well to get involved, get politicised and whatever, we do need to, come to these events
and soak up the knowledge that we're getting from all our elders and people that know our history, can tell us what our history is, because we don't get it from the mainstream. We don't get it at all. But actually what we do need to do is exactly what you've said. We need to inspire people around us. So as well as we're moving, we have to move people around us all the time. There's lots of people that are basically downtrodden with racist society around them, you know? It's systematic racism. So they can't even breathe. They're breathing, but they're just like they're zombies, yeah? We're like zombies in this system. But we need to, like you said, awaken people in whatever way we can and move them. How many people in this room were on the demonstrations a few weeks ago in solidarity with refugees? I was on the march in London with 100,000 people, yeah? But our black people, we need to also start mobilising, because like we said, when we went to Calais, me and Zita, when we went to Calais with National Islam, our black brothers and sisters who were literally, if you want to talk about young people that are creative, that are struggling, that are fighting, our young people are travelling continents at the age of 17, 18. People, the average age of the person I was speaking to was 20 years old. They were all as young as my daughters and younger, the people I was speaking to. And they've had to travel continents upon continents and suffer upon suffer. And we need to understand they're creative and they're fighting. They're trying to struggle for a better world, for a better society, to be able to live and breathe. And while we're living and breathing, however zombied we are living and breathing, we need to unite to fight for them and fight with them as well. So we need to be opening those borders as well. We need to be saying a resolution that we think there should be free movement for all our people.
I'm not sure it'll stretch at all.
No. Yeah, I'll be brief. Some excellent points, as already been said, were made from the floor, and I acknowledge all of them. And I just want to say that there is a link running through most of them, and the link is neocolonialism. And it connects us back to where we were earlier this morning when we were talking about the Fifth Pack and Marcus Garvey. It matters, to read my formula, that the main Garveyan at the Fifth Pan-African Congress, apart from Amy Ashwood Garvey, was none other than Kwame Nkrumah. And that he ended up writing a book called Neocolonialism, the Highest Stage of Imperialism. It matters that he wrote that book. The analysis of where the struggle has ended up has a direct line back to Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and we Africans need to understand that that is where the struggle is at. All of this stuff about making links with rich countries in Africa and Sixth Region and so on, manifestations of destructive neocolonialism that we have to identify as the enemy, a manifestation of imperialism, and to begin to work out how successfully to fight it, to complete the African Revolution. That's what I would
say. Okay. You still feeling the energy? You sure? Say black power. Say black power. Say black power. Ah, feeling that. Well, we're not going to stand between you and the food. I have to leave you, so I shall see you again. Take care for the rest of the conference. The food is out the back. You'll be back here at 4:30, where you'll hear the incredible Umar Johnson. Yeah, give that a round of applause. Give that. And my